Hello and welcome to the McDonald's sessions. Today I'm here with Ryan. We're going to talk about how he got into running and anything else that we decided to talk about. Hello, today I'm here with Ryan, and Ryan and I know each other from, we worked together, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago?
Probably about 20 years ago, yeah.
Good Lord. But I don't know if you were a runner back then. Did you run back when you worked at US Central?
I did. I did my first, I guess my first half was when I was probably been at US Central for about a year, maybe 2 years in, and then just got addicted to the sport and got into it from there.
Yeah, I wasn't a runner then, so I probably didn't know about it at all. Let's talk about what you did in high school. Were you an athlete in high school?
So in high school, I played 3 sports. I played football, wrestling, and then tennis. And my passion of those was tennis and football. Wrestling was just thrown in because in the winter you needed to do something to stay in shape. So the wrestling coaches all helped coach the football team and kind of drug you into that. So if you didn't play basketball, you had to do that, and that's how I got into the to the wrestling part of that.
I noticed you didn't say you were in track or cross country or anything.
No.
Were you even interested in all of that, or were you thinking that is the worst thing to ever?
I thought it was the worst thing ever. I had no desire to run. Wind sprints were awful. I remember running sprints for both football and wrestling both, and I hated it. And I'm like, why do people run? I saw them running track, and I'm like, I love watching track as far as the Olympics go, but as far as me being on the track, I was like, get me as far away from it. So tennis was my way, and I had taken tennis since I was a little kid, so that was a sport I grew up playing the most.
You still play tennis?
I do, yeah. I still play tennis. Gotten into a little bit of this pickleball craze that's coming around as well, but no, I've played tennis for so long, and I play at a 3-5 USTA level, and have been lucky enough to go to nationals twice with that. So
cool. So once you got out of high school, where did you go to college? I
went to Drury, at the time Drury College. Now it's Drury University down in Springfield, Missouri. And, didn't really do any sports down there. I did intramurals, I guess, with the fraternity, but
what kind of intramurals did you? Basketball
basketball was fun, but let's just say I'm not very good at basketball. I still, I was very good at slow pitch softball. I was a pitcher, and I could do that very well. And it's a muscle memory sport, so those tend to work well for me. Are the muscle memory ones. I liked volleyball and intramurals as well. Yeah. But primarily just the intramural sports there, and trying to think, they were real big into ultimate frisbee too.
Oh, nice. What was your major at Drury?
I was a business and economics major, so I double majored there and landed with both of those. Kind of taking me into my career. When I graduated, I don't know if it was a slow market or what it was, but it was hard to get a job right out of college, so I substitute taught for 6 months while I was looking for my full-time career, and of all things, I ended up in banking. So I started at UMB Bank back in, I guess it was 99, January, or I guess it would have been December of 98, so that my benefits would kick in by the start of January 99.
Yeah. So how did you end up was UMB then US Central? Was that the next?
Yeah, from UMB, my next step was US Central. So UMB, my boss was Cynthia Simpson, and Cynthia left UMB after I'd been there for about 5 months, and she went to US Central, and I guess it was probably about a year later she drugged me over to US Central.
When did you leave US Central? Did you leave when it kind of closed, or did you?
I did. I made it to the, I don't want to say the bitter end because I wasn't there on the last day, but the layoffs had started, and I think I chose to get laid off in February because I knew the job market was hot in January, February timeframe, and so I was able to get a lot of interviews lined up. Took a quick job at Jack Henry wasn't really what I wanted, so I was there for. Sounds terrible. I was there for 2 weeks, and after my 2 weeks, I gave my 2-week notice, and I went to the Federal Reserve, and I've been at the Federal Reserve Bank since.
Downtown?
Yeah.
Do you work in the office, or do you work out of your home, or is it a combination?
Combination, yeah. So I'm in the office 2 to 3 days a week, and then at home, always home on Mondays and Fridays, and kind of have to be in 2 days a week, and then a lot of times make it in for that third, because I like socialization, so I like to be there.
Yeah, you're a little bit more outgoing than me. I was just talking to someone, and they asked who I was interviewing. I was like, I don't tell anyone who I'm interviewing. But I was like, you don't even guess who it is, because I know you don't know this person. And she's like, well, you're such an introvert, and which I am, but I talk to a lot of people. I mean, this is like the 22nd one of these, so you're episode 22.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's been really fun to like talk to people and like get to know their story.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back, and now we're going to talk a little bit about your running. So,
awesome.
Where in that journey did you get into running? Like, how did you kind of start?
It's a funny story because I did not like running. I don't want to say I don't like running now, because now I love running. But the start was, I did not really want to get into it, but I'd gotten extremely overweight. So when I started my journey, I was about 350 pounds, and my brother was getting ready to graduate college, and he went to Drury and he played a college sport. So he was playing soccer there. And when he got out, he wanted to stay in shape. And he signed up for the marathon in San Francisco. And I told him, I was like, well, if you can run a marathon, I'm going to force myself and I'm going to do the half marathon out there with you.
Okay.
And so that's what got me in. And I made that commitment, and I paid the money. And one thing I've learned with races nowadays is if you don't pay the money, sometimes you lose your motivation. So pay the money ahead of time and head from there. And so I guess I think it was about 2003 was my first half marathon, and it was in San Francisco.
Was that really pretty much your first race? You didn't even do a 5K or 10K before
I had done
that?
I did the the trolley run
Yeah.
and some runs like that leading into it. That was part of my training, but that was my first big race. And so, I guess the trolley run's huge too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I started with the small races as part of my training to get myself to the big race. And, it was 2003. And from there, it's gone through now. I took maybe, I want to say, a year hiatus where I kind of stopped running, and I don't know, it didn't feel right. My body didn't feel right. And so after that year hiatus, I was like, I got to keep doing this.
So how did that first half marathon go? Was it really, were you really sore after, or did you, how did it happen?
Let's just say it was pretty awful.
Yeah.
San Francisco is not probably the place you should choose for your first half marathon.
I could see that.
It was hilly as all get out. I had trained what I thought was well enough. I think I'd done up to a double-digit run, so I think I'd done a 10-miler leading in, and probably needed to do a little bit longer. By the finish of it, my legs were really, really sore. And let's just say the first one was very slow and very steady. I got through it, and I think the pure elation of finishing it was there, right? And that's that feeling.
Yeah.
You just can't really explain it to people who haven't done it before, because the feeling of accomplishment is so much when you do that first one.
Yeah. So that was rough. Did you consider, like, this is my last race ever, maybe even during the race, or did you no, I'm going to keep doing this? No,
I kind of knew I was going to keep doing it. I think that commitment, the addiction kind of fed from there. Trying to think, I think my next half it took me a while to do my next half, but I did a lot of 10Ks, and I think back then the Hospital Hill was a 12K versus being the 10K. You either had the half or you had the 12, and I liked that 12K distance, right?
Yeah.
It's about 8 miles or 7.5 miles. It's about the perfect number to hit, and so I liked that a lot. And I did that, and I did keep with it, and I always kept running. And I did my next half. My next official half was in St. Louis, and I ran that with a bunch of college friends who were living in St. Louis at the time. And that one was so much fun that I knew for sure I was going to keep the streak alive and keep going.
Yeah. So, how many halves have you done now? Do you know? Can you count that? Or
probably can't count it now.
Awesome.
It's reached that number where it's just been a lot.
It seems like you've done a lot of halves like out of town too. Is that? Do you like it better out of town? Do you like to do it here?
You know, it's interesting because I did my first 2 out of town, then I did a lot in town here, and now I've kind of decided, like, I'll run a half wherever it takes me, and if it coincides with the time we're going to be out of town, that's even better, right? You get to throw a vacation into the half mix, but I don't mind running halves here in Kansas City at all. Now, when it comes to a fulls, I've done 2 fulls, and both of them I made vacations because I know this city too well. I'm like, 26 miles here is not my dream destination to be pushing my body that far.
Right.
So my two fulls, I did my first one in San Antonio, and I did my second one in Chicago.
Yeah.
And so now I'm kind of at the goal of doing a full every 5 years.
Okay. So once you kind of felt good at the half, like what made you decide I should do a full? Is that just the next step, or did someone dare you, or how did you get to that?
You know, it's interesting because I never really thought about doing a full, and I guess I was still at U.S. Central at the time, and a lot of people were starting to get into them, and I thought to myself, I don't know, I still don't think I want to go that far. I like this half distance, and doing a few of them a year keeps me at a good pace, and I kind of like that. And then I went through a very rough breakup with a girl at the time, and I needed to clear my head, and there's nothing better than running for clearing your head. And it's interesting. I trained for that first full, and I never wore headphones. I never did I ran, and it was just truly to get my mind right and to clear my mind, and it was such an awesome experience. I was like, I know I want to do this again.
Yeah.
It took me 10 years to do it again, but I had another one scheduled. I was going to do Chicago. I guess that would have been probably 4 years after the first one. I was going to do Chicago. And when I was scheduled to do it, I actually qualified for nationals in tennis. And I'm like, well, I've been playing tennis forever. I don't know if I'll ever qualify for nationals again, so I'll give up my spot in Chicago and do that. And then a few years ago, we had my little guy sitting over there across the way. We had him, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to get myself back in great shape again and run a full. And opted for Chicago because I heard how great the course support was there. I heard how the crowds were. Because in San Antonio, it wasn't so crowded, right? Like, it was a good race, pretty flat, not hot because it's November, so it was awesome temperatures. It was like 50 degrees and cloudy, so your optimal running conditions. But there were a lot of people for the first 5 miles, and then I didn't see any more people again until the last mile of the race.
Yeah.
And that's not the best full experience, right? Like, you want the whole crowd to energize you and keep you going. And Chicago, I'd always heard great things about, and when I did it, fully lined up. People were lined up pretty much the entire way. Like, there might have been a 2-mile stretch where there were very few people or crowd support, but the city embraces it, and you get that full experience, and that was awesome.
The 2 Garmin marathons, the KC one downtown and then the one in Olathe, you would not like it because there's not a lot of support. I mean, there are people that are cheering you, but there's times where you're the only, especially if you run slow. I mean, you're the only one there, so it's very hard. I've never run a race like Chicago where it's like full.
And that's Chicago. The crazy thing about it is, right, you've got people. It's still packed when you've got people who are slow. I'm a 5-hour marathoner, so the good people are the real racers are finishing by the time I'm starting.
Yeah.
I'm going across the starting, but it's still full because it's 55,000 people all doing a marathon.
Yeah.
No shorter distances, so the entire time you're with people and you never feel left out. And even when you're going slow, somebody's there with you going around the same pace. So that part I thought made it a lot easier because in San Antonio, it's a big race. It was a rock and roll race, but everybody was running the half.
Yeah.
So once you crossed 9 miles and they turned to go home and you're heading out, it was you and probably another maybe 2,000 people. But of those people, most of them were way ahead of you. So
Yeah.
it's you and the world out there.
It is interesting. Like even like Rock the Parkway, you'll be running, and there's a ton of people there, but it spreads out like really really fast. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like I've never run again like a race like where you're with people the whole time like that, and then
that one it doesn't spread out at all. Like, it is wall to wall people the entire time. Now I mean. They run it on huge streets, so you can spread out. You don't have to feel like you're cramped, but it's just crowded as far as that goes.
Yeah. So do you have plans for a next marathon? Are you eyeing one? Or?
Yeah. So I think the next one for me is going to be next March in Virginia Beach.
Oh, nice.
So there's a race called the Shamrock Race out there, and I run in a running group now. And the group I run with, the girls I run with, they've been dead set on doing this race for a long time. I think because it's sponsored by Yinling, so there's a big party at the beach afterwards. So I'm like, that sounds like a lot of fun. And so they do a marathon a year, and I'm like, that's still too big a pounding on my body that I commit to one every 5 years. But this one, I'm like, this one sounds really cool. I'll get out there and do that.
Yeah. What about here? Do you have any races planned in Kansas City where I might see you?
Yeah, you'll see me. You'll see me around for sure. I do a lot of the smaller races right now. Like it's weird. I didn't used to believe in paying to run 4 miles or paying to run, 6 miles. I thought if I'm going to pay, I only want to pay to run 13 or 26. And kind of gone away from that thought process, and so I like to run I just did the Westport run here, and then trying to think. I always do Kansas City Half. Like it's one of my favorite races. So even though
I plan on doing that,
even though it's hilly as all get out, not a fun course necessarily. It's a fun race, right? And I feel like you got to support the city you live in.
Yeah.
And that this is our calling card marathon and half marathon. So every year I want to support that. So I get out there and do it.
Yeah.
So I know it'll be at it. Trying to think. I'll do sometime by the end of the summerish season. I'll probably do another half here in the city too. Just don't know which
Hospital Hill.
No. The funny thing with Hospital Hill is I reached the point where I stopped having fun with that race.
Yeah.
I've done the half there 7 times maybe, and I don't ever have a good time as far as like times go.
Yeah.
Not that I don't run for time anymore like I used to, but you want to have fun when you're doing it. And I feel like the conditions are almost never ideal. It's either muggy, it's either raining, or it's either really hot. And
I don't like the really hot.
No.
Especially on that, because I mean that is hilly.
It is, and that one, that course it's rough.
Yeah.
So if I do it, I do the 10K now.
Okay.
If they come back to that 12K distance, I would run that too. But yeah, I just stopped having fun doing that one, and I'm like, you need to have fun, right? If you're gonna run 13 miles, you don't want it to be a mental. Well, it's always gonna be a mental strain, but you want to be fun and enjoy doing it, and I just don't enjoy that course.
So, let's talk about during your races when you have kind of hit that wall. Do you have like motivational sayings, or what gets you to the end?
It's funny because I have always been a person who. My goal is to get to the halfway mark, and then from the halfway mark, I can do the mental thing of, you've already run this far, now you just got to finish it. With a marathon, if you get to 18, it's like, or 16, you're like, now it's just 10 miles in.
Yeah.
I do 10-mile runs every weekend. Why can't you finish 10 here? And,
right.
It is such a mental torture. Long races are, and you have to find that motivation. And for me, that tends to be it, is to tell myself, you do this all the time, even when it's the last mile of the marathon, and at that point you're either elated or you're hating life, and sometimes it's both, right? And you get to it and you're just like, okay, this is 1 mile, this is 10 minutes of your stinking life, figure it out, get through it, that's what you got to do. And so those are some of my big motivations. And then like on big races, I've been really lucky. So in Chicago, my wife was there, and she saw me. She managed to get to 5 different spots on that course.
Oh, nice.
And see me, which was really cool. And the last one was at 25, because Chicago's so big, you can't be at the finish line. I knew I wasn't gonna see her till after I'd I had some water and my finish line beer or whatever, and then I can make my way down to the end of Grant Park to meet her. So she saw me at 25, and she ran about a quarter mile with me and was motivating me, and it was just basically like, Connor is so proud of you right now. I'm so proud of you, and that pushed me for that last mile. I look back at San Antonio, and my friend Jen Russell was with me. Jen from U.S. Central.
Yeah.
Jen was down there with me, and her friend, and now my friend too, Jeremy, they had gone and they had run the half. And so the half they'd finished and they'd gotten changed, and they were at about the last mile. So she saw me at 25, and she jumped over the ledge, and she ran that last mile with me.
Oh,
and
nice.
The funny thing about San Antonio is there's no hill in the entire course, really, until the last, I want to say, third of a mile. You're going up the hill in front of the Alamo Dome.
Yeah.
And I wanted to walk that so bad, because at that point I'm like, you've done enough. And she was running, and she was like, get up that hill. You own that hill.
Yeah.
And that helped me finish that one too. And so, I do think getting cheered on or hearing support always helps. And you can't run that kind of distance without having support from a lot of people, no doubt about it.
And it doesn't even matter what distance it is, but when you get to that point where you think that you can't finish, and you get past it, like, that's the best feeling, pretty much. That's why people keep running.
Right? And it's relief too, because there's injuries always in our sport, right? So you worry about that, and if you can push through the pain, but like you said, you reach that certain point where you're like, okay, I know I'm going to finish. Mm-hmm. And that sense of relief comes over you, and then you get to enjoy it. Yeah. And I think for me, with especially those two longer distances, when I got, you're going to finish a 5K because you do it all the time, but for me, it's that last, really, like, probably that mile, and having those people meet you at that point was perfect, because it's like, okay, here's the end.
Yeah.
Let's enjoy this. And like, I remember that the first one, I wasn't smart enough to take my phone with me to take any pictures. I mean, I did after the race and before the race, but during the race, I didn't have any memories of it. And like in Chicago, I was like, this one I'm doing for a different reason, right? Like the first one I needed for mental clarity. The second one I'm doing just for fun. And I was like, I want my phone with me. I want to, when I run by some landmarks, when I run by things, I want to take some pictures and enjoy this. And I remember that about Chicago. I was able to do that. Yeah. And I think that helped a lot with the race too, because it was more fun, Like when I run in Kansas City and I run with the running group, or if I'm running like KC Half, I'm running it with 7 other of my friends, and so we're either talking a lot of the way or we're taking pictures. Like, that's another thing I love about the Kansas City Half, right? You hit every landmark in this city. Like, you're running right by Liberty Memorial, you're running right by Sprint Center, or T-Mobile Center, you're running right by all the cool things in the city, by the plaza, the 18th and Vine, just a lot of awesome areas in this city, and so it's fun to take some pictures in front of those landmarks as you're doing it. Yeah,
I mean, that's the fun thing about running too, is all the scenery and just things that you see. It's really fun. So, okay, was there anything else that you'd like to talk about?
No, man, it's been an awesome journey. I encourage anybody, and hopefully the people who are watching these, get out there and just give it a try. Because I think people, I was maybe one of those people too at first that always said, I only run to get away from the police or whatever. I don't want to run. And I think it's such a family thing now, right? Like, the runner community, there's no better community. Like, after every race, everybody parties, they have a good time. Yep. Everybody encourages each other during the race. If you see somebody that is struggling out there on the course, runners are so good about picking them up and helping them and making sure that they get to the finish line, because we've all done this same thing, and we all know what the pain is. We all know what the reasons why we're doing it. Maybe we don't know all the reasons why we're doing it, but it just, it's a family thing. It's so weird.
I've talked about that with a lot of different people, that it's like one of the places that you will get encouragement. I mean, think about your day. You don't hear people say, like, keep going or good job or anything, but when you're running, people you don't even know are, like, cheering you on.
That's it. I mean, even, it's just a regular, like, I run with a running group, and I'll get out there, and on just a Saturday, if we're on a trail, there's people who are like, great job, way
Yep.
to go. And it's like, yeah, I'm only in mile 2 right now, but hey, awesome, thanks for
Yeah.
the encouragement. And it's a community sense of family thing, which is awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's one of the best. I mean, there's a lot of good reasons to do it. That's like
For
one,
sure.
one of the good reasons too. So, okay. Well, I'm glad that we got to get together.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you for a while. So,
I know.
I think I saw you at Rock the Parkway last year, maybe.
Casey Half. I saw you at Casey
Okay.
Half for sure.
We've definitely crossed paths at races before.
Oh, yeah.
But like talked for about a minute.
Right.
And then you kept going or I kept going. So it's good to catch up with you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess we'll get out of here. I'm going to go refill my drink.
Cool.
And thank you all for watching, and talk to you next time.
Yeah.